Welcome to the Pen India YouTube channel, where we bring you exclusive insight from the expert. Today we have the privilege of exploring diabetes and health with the esteemed Padmashree Dr. Mohan, author of the groundbreaking ICMR in Diabetes study. In this enlightening video, Dr. Mohan adeptly tackles a comprehensive area of 19 significant inquiries pertaining to diabetes. The webinar unfolds in a meticulous and thoughtfully structured manner, with each question given due attention in a separate segment. We kindly request you to share your invaluable insights and newfound knowledge in the comment section below, as we highly value your contributions. Thank you so much.
I have the statement put up in all my clinics and all my branches. Diabetes is not a disease, it is a disorder. Now you may think, okay, what is there? It's only semantics, whether you call it a disease or a disorder, but you'll be surprised how many people have thanked me. Thank God, doctor, you said it's not a disease, it's only a disorder. A simple thing like that makes such a big difference to people. Again, not calling people diabetic. I try to do this, but whenever I give press interviews and all that, they'll say diabetic, diabetic. And people write to me and say, hey, you shouldn't have used that word. I said, I didn't use it, but I can't prevent the journalists from writing what they want. So don't use the word diabetic. You say a person with diabetes, it is better. Okay. So diabetes simply means high blood sugars. And so you know the diabetes is of diabetes mellitus, diabetes insipidus. In diabetes insipidus, there's no high blood sugar. So when we say diabetes, we mean diabetes mellitus. Now, to get the fundamentals right, it's surprising how many people don't even know the actual value to diagnose diabetes. So you can either have a fasting plasma glucose more than 126, or a random glucose more than 200 on more than 2 occasions, or you can have a 2-hour value in an OGTT more than 200, or a HbA1c more than 6.5. This last one, the ADA has put it, but in our country, I wouldn't go only by this. In fact, when this came out, I wrote such a strong article to Diabetes Care with data that they could not but publish it. And the editor wrote to me and said, you know, we want to publish this paper, but your discussion is so strongly against the ADA, and this is an ADA journal, so can you tone it down a little bit so that I can publish it? Otherwise, how can I write something against ADA in my ADA journal, but he said, your facts are absolutely correct. So what I'm trying to say is the HbA1c is not even standardized in our country. So if you just get somebody with 6.6, don't label them as diabetic. Still depend on blood glucose more. And of course, even before diabetes, there's a stage of pre-diabetes, which we'll talk about. Now, okay, so this is the stage of pre-diabetes, which sits right between normal glucose tolerance and diabetes. This is a figure, believe it or not, which my father and I prepared this in the 1970s, not now, like 60 years ago, 50, 60 years ago, we prepared this figure, and still now it has not changed. So we have a stage of normal glucose tolerance, pre-diabetes. Of course, at that time, we didn't know IFG and IGT, all that came later, but pre-diabetes is still there. Clinical diabetes, when you have signs and symptoms of diabetes, but even there, you can have those values which I just told you, and you need not have signs and symptoms. And finally, the stage of complications. Now, this is very important because this, everybody's talking about reversal of diabetes now, and actually blaming us, saying that, oh, you physicians are only interested in writing pharmacotherapy, you're not interested in remission because you're scared your patients will run away. Well, I can share a secret with you. In 1987, many of you may not have been born at that time, I published a paper with 45 cases of remission. At that time, I don't think ADA had even used the word remission. I had used the word remission, published in an international journal, and showed 45 cases who had lost some weight and went into remission. And then again, in that 9 cases went back to diabetes. And I showed how you can go back and you can go front. And that's how we prepared this figure at that time. And this figure is not new, showing that in 1980s, we had already published, I've got several textbooks where this figure is already there in 1980s. You can see that I'm showing reversal there already. And from there, back to this. I'm saying from here, you first go to pre-diabetes, and if you enter pre-diabetes, then you can go to normal also. But if you leave it alone, the disease pulls you in this direction. You can go because age is a modifiable risk factor. Family history is a non-modifiable risk factor. I keep joking that you can change your wife or you can change your husband, but you cannot change your father and mother. They are constant. Biologically, you can't change them. So that suppose father and mother have diabetes, you already got double dose gene. You can't do anything about it. And then as you grow older, age also you can't do anything about it. So even if you jog, even if you lose weight, even if you may get a little bit of diabetes. Then why should we focus on prevention? Because there is a huge difference whether you get diabetes at 20 or whether you get it at 50 or 60. If you get it at 20, by 40, you may have kidney failure. At 50, you've not even got diabetes. Then only you have to start and then get, and it's much milder when you get it older. So you'll be 80, 90 years old. And that's why we're just discussing before some of you joined, that many of my patients have crossed 100 years of age and they're still going strong, And so it's possible if you control diabetes well. And that's what this talk is all about. Now, the signs and symptoms of diabetes, very often my patients tell me, but I don't have any symptoms of diabetes. Believe it or not, yesterday I had a patient from Orissa, and she came with a blood sugar of 750. Now, her fasting was near 600, and her postprandial was 740 or something like that. Her HbA1c was 12.5. Now, she walked in, and of course, she's feeling thirsty and all that. But you would think that she'll be in a coma. Not necessarily, because it's going little by little by little by little. They can tolerate even 700 without even knowing about it. Of course, she knew, and that's why she came. So these symptoms that we talk about, tiredness, delayed healing of wounds, frequent urination, thirst, hunger, aches in the limbs, weight loss, itching in the genital areas, weight loss, and so on. These symptoms of diabetes are not present in 50% of patients. So remember that. Diabetes is an asymptomatic disease. In fact, if you go back, what we have, the new figures published just this month, is that the number of people with diabetes from 70 million has actually gone to 101 million. That is bad enough. But if you look at the number of pre-diabetes, it is 100 and... So this is the report I told you. It was published on June 7th and June 8th in India, actually got published. June 7th, midnight, it got published. Now, this is the largest epidemiological study on diabetes ever done in the world. The sample size is 113,000 individuals. Okay, so 113,000 individuals, urban, rural, exact divide, exact representative population of India. You cannot, if you put the census of India and the INDIAB study, they match each other exactly. One curve sits on the other. That's why the Lancet and all has been publishing series of articles on INDIAB, not one. INDIAB 13 was also there, INDIAB 17 was there, and earlier also another one. 3 papers in the Lancet only from this study. And that's because you cannot get a better study. The study took us 15 years to complete. Actually, it was my daughter, Anjana. Many of you may know her. Right from her MBBS day, she started. I want to do INDIAB study, INDIAB study. And I said, no INDIAB study. You finish your MBBS. Then we finish her MD. During MD also she came. I said, when you're doing MD, how can you do India study? Forget about it. After MD, she came. And then she said, now allow me to do. Then when I told ICMR, they said, great idea, take it, do the whole country. So from that time, she's been working 15 years to complete the study. Of course, we've kept on publishing in between, but this is the ultimate culmination of this. And this was like first page news in Times of India in every edition, on the top first page, like you have earthquake or something like that, rail accident, that kind of news it was. And that's why it's shaken up the whole country and the whole world, in fact, has been shaken up by this. So 136 million is the number of people with pre-diabetes. I just not only pre-diabetes will go to diabetes. Now we have data to show you that pre-diabetes to diabetes conversion is much faster in South Asia. In fact, it's one of the fastest, except some Pima Indians and all over a few thousand people, and they have gross obesity. But for them, the fastest conversion in the world compared to Chinese or Japanese or white people or anything is South Asians. And so this 136 million, believe me, is going to quickly convert into diabetes. And so this number can keep on increasing in India unless we do some lifestyle modification. Remember that along with this comes a lot of other NCDs, hypertension, obesity, central obesity. Look at central obesity, 351 million people with central obesity in India. Can you beat it? And this is only the tip of the iceberg. It's still going to increase. Like in China, if we keep going, this is going to go very, very high. Almost everybody is going to get obese and hypercholesterolemia and so on. Now, it also leads to complications. If you don't control your diabetes, I'll talk about that. You don't control diabetes. Again, these are population-based data. So you have retinopathy, nephropathy, neuropathy, peripheral vasculitis, coronary artery disease. You just take nephropathy. It's easy to understand. Microalbuminuria or above. Okay. 25% of the population has some nephropathy. I just told you it's 100 million people. So very simple. 100 million, 25%, 25 million. 25 million people with diabetic kidney disease of some disorder, at least starting with microalbuminuria. Now, that's the population of Australia. The whole of Australia, we have not diabetic. We have 4 times Australia diabetic already in India, and 1 Australia only with kidney disease in India. Now, when Australians tell me we are able to screen the whole population and all that, I'll say, good for you. You are on Delhi for us, you know. New Delhi is 25 million. I wish we are only New Delhi. Then I can also do all that you're doing. I have to think 100 times bigger than you or 200 times bigger than you. And we don't have the budget for that in India, you know. So what I'm trying to say is you can't get 25 million kidneys to donate to do transplantation of all these people. Okay, 25 million may not go into transplantation. Take 1/5 of that, 5 million. They will have need kidney. 5 million kidneys you're going to get? You're joking. You cannot get 5,000 kidneys in a year in India. Where are you going to get 5 million kidneys? So the only thing we can do is prevention. Prevention, prevention, prevention. Otherwise, we had it. If we just continue like this, we had it. Okay. So is this due to genetic or environmental factors? Now, it's very tempting to say, oh, we are genetically prone and all that. If we are genetically prone, what happened in 1972 when Ahuja did the study and got 2% prevalence and 0.5% and 1% in rural areas? 50 years. I was there in 1972. I had already joined medical college in 72. So from that time to now, from 2%, if it's become 25%, it's not our genes. My genes didn't change in 50 years. What happened? Even my weight didn't change in 50 years. So what happened? Now, environmental factors are the ones which are driving the epidemic, which is good for us. If it is purely genetic, you can't do anything. If it's a monogenic disease like Modi or something, or neonatal diabetes, it'll come. You just can't do anything about it. But type 2 diabetes, is what we are talking about, is largely due to environmental factor. There is a genetic factor which is there, but the environmental factors override the genetic factors. And this is 2009, somewhere in 2005 or so, 2007. In an interview, he asked me, Dr. Mohan, why is diabetes increasing in India? So I said, physical activity, genetics, something and all I said. He said, have you looked at your rice data? Just look at your carbs data. You will find that strong correlation between carb intake and thing. And he was explaining how when you take too much carbs, the insulin will come out and then your beta cells will get weak and then you will get diabetes. You'll also put on weight, which is another, the whole mechanism he explained to me. Then from there itself, I called, from Puttaparthi itself, I called my dietitian, my head of nutrition and said, hey, let's look at that. He told me, you have the data and you're not analyzed it, he said. I said, okay, it's time to analyze. This is what came out, published in British Journal of Nutrition. It was a cross-sectional study. So what we did was we looked at the quartiles of glycemic load, and most of the glycemic load came from rice in Chennai. This is Chennai-based data, not national data. So we took the first quartile, people who ate less carbohydrate, but that itself is 200 grams per day, okay? And then compared it with those who were in the fourth quartile, which is 400 grams per day. The prevalence of diabetes went up, this is odds ratio, went up 4-fold, not 20% or 30, 400% increase. And what is the increase in carbohydrate? From 200 to 400. If you just double your carbohydrate intake, your diabetes goes up. Now, some of you may say that may not be due to the carbohydrate or anything, maybe due to obesity. If you look at the bottom, it's all adjusted. We are adjusted for gender, BMI, family history, cigarette smoking, alcohol, income, exercise, everything has been adjusted for. And yet we are seeing this. So this is fairly strong evidence. And British Journal of Nutrition grabbed it. They said, oh, this is fantastic data. So they grabbed it. But there are confounders which we may not be able to adjust for in a cross-sectional study. because cross-sectional study is always a second level evidence only. You need prospective studies. Okay. Now, in the same thing, to see whether it was valid or not, what we did was we also looked at carbohydrate. We found the same thing. Glycemic index, we found the same thing. Glycemic load, we found the same thing. Now, what would we expect with fiber? We'll expect with more fiber, it will do the opposite. We found it. The more the fiber, the less the diabetes. So this is validity of the data, showing you that the data is actually correct. Okay. So now, so having done this, now we know that it is cross-sectional data is showing this. So the hypothesis generating thing. Now, what do you need to do? You need to do a prospective study, follow people who did not have diabetes for 10, 15 years, and then see who developed diabetes, and then go back and see what they were eating 15 years ago, and how much carbohydrate they were taking, and whether that translated into diabetes. That's more easily said than done, isn't it? But we did it. And that is the study called as the PURE study, the Prospective Urban Rural Epidemiological Study. Now, if you thought that that one was cures is based on 26,000 people, this is based on 132,000 people in 21 countries and 5 continents. Can you beat that now? Okay. And this is from by none other than Salim Yusuf, who is an Indian, as you know, Malayali, who studied in St. John's and now heads the PURE study based at Hamilton, the famous Hamilton, and he set up he's done hundreds of studies like this, and PURE is just one of them. He's in the top 2 or 3 scientists in the world, actually. Today. And PURE is not only looking at these kind of things, looking at everything, right? From climate change to PURE has already more than 150 papers. And so I was interested in diabetes part, and I said, I want to look at diabetes. So Bhavadharini, who is my PhD student and who was working at Salim Yusuf at that time. So we did the study. And what we found was, here is the rice intake. We're looking only at rice. This is not total carbohydrate, just rice itself. Now, if you look at South Asia, look at the amount of rice consumed compared to the rest of the world, including China, rice intake has gone down. So what would you expect? If the hypothesis is true, then you will find a very strong association with rice intake in South Asia. And that's what we found. The hazard ratio is 1.61, which means a 61% increase in new onset diabetes. This is not cross-sectional. These are people who did not have diabetes. After 10, 15 years, when you followed up the same individuals, they developed diabetes and they were taking more rice. Again, this has been adjusted for many things. China, because they have reduced their rice intake, they are taking more meat and more vegetables and more things. They've reduced rice intake, almost disappearing now. You can see the rice correlation going down. Rest of the world still there. Overall also still there. But South Asia stands out because we are the highest rice eating population in the world. Okay. Now we may ask, what if you do physical activity? Will it get reduced? Yes. In the same South Asians, if you look at the physically inactive people and physically active people, from 50% increased risk, it comes down to 16% risk. And you can see the statistical significance is gone. So if you just do physical activity, even if you take rice, even if you take the same amount of rice, still you can cut down. Now that explains why very often when I talk about rice, I'm criticized in social media. Oh, this is all rubbish. Our grandfathers used to eat rice, but our grandfathers worked very hard in the field that we forget. They were not sitting with computers and playing. You know, our grandfathers and grandmothers were very different. So don't compare that. The rice was different. The rice was not so much polished. They had hand-pounded rice, which is like brown rice, which is very healthy rice. Okay. So don't compare that and this, and never criticize data which is based on 130,000 people followed for 15 years in 5 continents. And very easy to criticize. Then do one more. Do 500,000 people in 80 countries and follow it up for next 100 years and tell my great-grandchildren whether it's right or wrong. So data is data, and you always believe data. So this is what we concluded, that the strongest association is in South Asia and white rice. And this paper really has been making a lot of headline because it's a prospective data. Now, what happens if you substitute brown rice with white rice? So this again is with Frank Hugh and Walt Willett and so on, the world leaders in nutrition. I mentioned that Salim Yusuf is in the top 5 Frank Hugh, Walt Willett is number one actually in the world. And Frank Hugh is also number 2 or 3. And Salim Yusuf is 4 or 5. So in the top 5, all of them are there in the top 5 among all scientists in the world, not just medicine, among all scientists in the world. Okay. So these are very strong groups. So what we did here was we substituted white rice with brown rice and did a randomized clinical trial. And what we found, and we also did continuous glucose monitoring. So we fitted, these are non-diabetic people, okay, and who are eating white rice, and white rice curves. This is, so we're putting the sensor and we're measuring the glucose after they've eaten the rice. Then after that, we switch them to the same people. We switch them to brown rice, and then we see. Now, this is the white rice. You can see the huge peaks. The blue is the brown rice, okay? And the black is the brown rice with legumes. Now, if you add pulses, Bengal gram, green gram, black gram, and so on, further reduction, because your protein is going up, your fiber is going up. So the same food can be made more healthy. You don't have to go to keto diet, this diet, that diet, Atkins diet, all kinds of diets you don't have to do. Your own diet, you reduce the rice, add some pulses, change it over to a healthier rice if possible, and you've done it. And that's enough for the population. I'll come back to what INDIAB showed later. Okay. And the best effect was seen if you already had metabolic syndrome. If you take a thin person who has no family history, who's jogging every day, and then you give him white rice and brown rice, you may not see any difference because he's already at a very low risk. He's not going to show. But take an obese person, already hyperinsulinic, already having insulin resistance, you will see beautiful effects when you do this. Okay. Now, diet, exercise, drugs, and education. These are the 4 pillars of diabetes management. I didn't put drugs first. I put diet first. Then I put exercise second. Third, I put medicine. They are also necessary. And for these 3 to work, you need education also, because unless you educate, nobody is going to follow it. Okay. Now, so far, I talked about the quantity of carbohydrate. I talked about rice. I talked about carbohydrate and so on. What about the quality of carbohydrate? Isn't that also important? In other words, are all carbohydrates bad? No, there are good carbs and there are bad carbs. These are the bad carbs. Sweetened drinks, fruit juice, highly polished white rice or wheat, white bread, cookies, pastry, ice cream, candy, chocolate, potato chips, French fries. All these are very high calorie things. And these are to be, for personal diabetes, definitely restricted. Anybody who wants to be healthy, cut down on this. Instead of taking fruit juice, take cut fruit. It's much better. It gives you fiber. Fruit juice will give you sugar even if you don't add sugar. Okay. Now, good carbs. Now, vegetables also contain carbs. Don't think vegetables don't contain carbs, but they are small quantities and they are very healthy. Whole fruit, preferably the low GI ones. Legumes, kidney beans, peas, lentils, Bengal gram, green gram, black gram, mushroom. All these things are very high in fiber, very good in protein. Carbs are less, and therefore they make your, and also for vegetarians, there is deficiency of lysine and rice and the deficiency of methionine in the pulses, and excess of those in each other. So when you take them together, you get a proper amino acid distribution. Otherwise, you'll be always getting one amino acid which is less. Nuts, walnuts, almonds. I'll show you one of our studies. We've done many studies on nuts, but I'll show you just one. Walnuts, almonds, hazelnuts, even peanuts. We are doing some study now, and cashew. I'll show you our cashew data. Seeds, sunflower, chia, pumpkin seeds. Seeds are also very good antioxidant, very good phytonutrients. You can just take seeds just like that, or you can put it in your food, or you can take it in milk, or you can take it in buttermilk, whichever way. This is also a very good thing to add. And then whole grains, brown rice, steel cut oats, quinoa, or whole wheat. All these are good. Okay. Professor, those days we hero worship our professors, and whatever they said is blind truth. Now I'm telling you, don't accept anything until you see the evidence. Okay. Don't, because half of what they've said is all wrong, and they tell it so convincingly. Those days we didn't have Google, we didn't have PubMed, we didn't have anything. So we couldn't even check it, whether what they said is correct or not. So one professor asked us, first day we entered clinical posting, and he asked, what is the best way to commit suicide? We thought, why is this guy asking about suicide? Maybe he's depressed and he wants to, We didn't answer. We kept quiet. We were so shocked we didn't answer. He said, no, tell me, what's it? I said, sir, take a gun, and shoot yourself. No, not that. I said, go to some terrace and jump off. That also is easy. No. I said, hang yourself. No. Walk into the river or sea or something. No. I'll tell you the answer. Eat 5 cashew nut every day. In 6 months, you'll die, he said. This had such a big impact on me that I thought cashew nut is poison. That's what because when he told me like that, it is full of saturated fat and your LDL will go up and you will die. So I said, oh my God, so bad, cashew nut. So when we did the cashew nut trial, I told, people, whatever result come, we're going to publish. I'm not going to say this is Indian cashew nut, this, that, and all that. Whatever results come, we will publish. We were thinking, weight will go up, sugar will go up, and all that. And this published in Journal of Nutrition, the beautiful randomized clinical trial. I'm very proud of this study. Again, you can see Jordi Salas and Walter Willett and all these people we had, strengthen our team. So what we found was that it had no effect on body weight if the calories are adjusted. It had no effect on HbA1c. This in people with type 2 diabetes, okay? 12-week study. No effect on HbA1c. It had no effect on LDL. So it didn't increase the LDL cholesterol. Surprisingly, we got 2 results. One, it increased the HDL. Now, at that time, there was not a single, this is 2018, 5 years ago, we published it. So there was not a single paper which had shown that HDL can increase due to cashew nut or nuts. Now it's kind of almost well established. 2 weeks after we published this, there's an American study published in American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showing the same thing, the same 2 results. That is, decrease in systolic blood pressure, increase in HDL cholesterol. These are the 2 benefits that we saw with cashew nut. You can see that here, how the systolic blood pressure in the intervention group fell almost 5 millimeters, whereas in the control group is only 1.7. And the diastolic pressure also fell. And the HDL increase, you can see in the intervention group compared to the control group. So this is very good because HDL, Indians have low HDL. And how to increase it is a question which you always ask. Just take a little bit. How much of cashew to take? Handful of cashew. Okay. Now the question which the press asked me was it salted? Was it roasted? I said, no, it is raw cashew. Now, because I said raw cashew, the entire cashew board got angry with me. They said, oh, we sell only salted cashew. I said, you may sell salted cashew. I'm talking about decrease in blood pressure. Do you want me to say that when I've given raw cashew, when you give salted cashew, BP will come down? Are you crazy? You should take cashew all nuts should be taken raw. Why do you need to put salt and roast it and all these things? You don't need to do it. You get the benefits if you take and only a fistful is what you should take. More than that, your energy consumption will go up, calorie will go up. Now, what about fruits and vegetables? Fruit and vegetable, this is another paper, British Journal of Nutrition, where we showed that the more fruits and vegetables you take, your body weight circumference is less. These are all quartiles of fruit consumption and so on. Your body weight is, your body waist circumference is less, your body weight is less, and your LDL cholesterol goes down the more fruit and vegetables that you take. Okay. Fresh salads is something which we as South Indians don't take. At least some North Indians take something. We don't take anything. Try to have salad with every meal. Even with your breakfast, you can have some tomato or cucumber or something. With your lunch, if you're able to take lettuce and so on, nothing like it is very, very good. You can mix and match all the salads and keep different colored vegetables, because each one will give you anthocyanin, one will give you carotenoid, will give you the orange one will give you carotenoids, the carrot spot, the radish will give you something else. Everything will give you some nutrient. So keep taking vitamin B12, you'll get iron, you'll get everything you'll get. So fresh salads you must take. Fruits. Can you take fruits or not? Fruits are again very good. They're a nutrient powerhouse, no doubt about it, except that they contain sugar. The vegetables don't contain sugar, whereas fruits contain fructose. So that we know very well. So the low GI fruits can definitely be taken. Take it as cut pieces and not as juice. So apple, orange, guava, watermelon, papaya, Now, artificial sweeteners, again, a big Pandora's box opened by WHO when they recently said that artificial sweeteners can lead to diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, deaths, this, that. I was in so many webinars, even yesterday with Ficky, I was day first day, Ficky, I had taken part. You show me one death due to artificial sweetener. Just show me one case who died in India, took artificial sweetener and died. I'll publish it. And then I'll stop using artificial sweeteners. I think artificial sweeteners, what WHO is talking about is, first of all, WHO said it's not for people with diabetes. We're not talking people with diabetes. I deal only with diabetic patients. So for me, it's not an issue at all. Even the WHO report is not a. And then what they are talking about is people drinking tons and tons of artificial sweeteners. They take some Diet Coke kind of a thing, which keep drinking again. Instead of water, they keep drinking. So what happens is the amount of aspartame which goes into your body becomes huge. We don't take like that in India. Maybe 40% of our population may be taking like that. Usually what we take is with tea and coffee, one sachet or one tablet or one drop is what we take. 3 cups of coffee, you'll get 3 drops or 3 tablets. Now, this is like 100 times lower than the recommended intake. So artificial sweeteners, if somebody cannot take sugar, they at least want to take this, let them take it. Don't use it if you're phenylketonuria. Don't use it if you're pregnant. Don't use it if you're children. Don't use it for weight loss. For weight loss, you're not going. If you just stop that sugar and change artificial sweetener, you think you're going to lose weight? You're not going to lose weight. Cut your carbs. Cut down on rice. Take more vegetables. Take more protein and healthy fats. That is how you're going to lose weight, not by cutting sugar and adding artificial sweetener. So if you're taking artificial sweetener for weight loss, stop it. It's not going to help. And that's what WHO is saying. So that we have no conflict with that. But if a diabetic patient has a craving for sweet, no, you cannot take artificial sweetener also. No, just stop your craving. It's very easy to say, right from Adam and Eve's time, man's craving has never been stopped. And we can't change it now. Okay, so let them take a little bit. Tell them, okay, somebody says it's not good, take a little bit of it. Okay. And so, and the other thing is, and what Jagdeep, Madan, and others were, Pulkit Mathur and others were talking is, see, they are worried about you make a dessert and in that you put so much of sweetener and now you say it's sugar-free. And in that you have fat, you have calories, you have this, you have that, all the bad things you have. Now you say it's sugar-free. It may be sugar-free, it's not calorie-free. Okay, the dessert has almost the same amount of. So if your weight doesn't come down, is it the sweetener which is responsible or all the other stuff that you put there? So it's not the sweetener which is responsible. You have the wrong concept that if you just remove sugar, everything is okay. It is not okay. You prepare gulab jamun, okay, with full of sweet thing. It's sweet there, but lot of ghee and all that you make. And then you just say, I've removed the sugar and I put artificial sweetener. It's still going to give you a lot of calories. Okay, so that's what you should know. Now, salt. Only one slide about salt. That the more salt you take, your blood pressure will go up. This is, I think, everybody knows this. There's no doubt about it. That the more salt you take, the thing. And Indians consume doubled amount of recommended amount of salt. Whatever is allowed, exact double we are taking. Please cut down your salt. Please don't take. Don't add salt in anything. Don't add salt. Don't even keep salt on the table. Why should you even keep salt on the table? You've got salt in your cooking. There is enough. Get rid of. And then pickles and things which are very high in salt. If you don't have blood pressure, you don't have anything, you want to take a piece of pickle, that's fine. But you already have blood pressure, you already have things. Cut down puppards, this, pickles, and all that, because that's definitely going to increase your blood pressure. Okay, as I told you, on everything I've got data, it's all published data. Now, how much water should we drink? Now, you should drink 2 to 3 liters of water. 1 cup is roughly about 250 ml. So if you take 8 cups of water throughout the day, when you get up in the morning, drink more. If you're gone for a walk and all, come back, you can take half a liter of water or even more. Otherwise, in our hot weather, even drinking too much of water also is bad. You keep on drinking water, you'll develop dilutional hyponatremia and all that. So you shouldn't do that. Can a person with diabetes drink alcohol? Now, alcohol is 0 calories. I mean, empty calories. So it doesn't give you any nutrients. There's no vitamins. There's no minerals. And They say, okay, red wine is good in France, they say. Well, red wine may be good in France. Is red wine good in India? Now, all the published studies, unfortunately, I'm sorry for those who drink, but all the published studies from India show that from any amount of alcohol, it's bad only, because we already got too many other risk factors. So alcohol, I can never promote it as a health drink, or we're not even talking about smoking here, but even alcohol, I cannot say no, no, take 2 drinks, it's good for you. If at all you have to drink, keep it to the minimum, because we already have fatty liver, we already have a lot of cirrhosis coming, pancreatitis coming. It adds calories to drink beer and all that. Therefore, definitely moderation in use of alcohol. And people hate me when I say this, but our facts are coming out like that. Now, this is a simple trick which I tell people. This is how your urine color should be. Not completely white, but just a tinge of yellow. You find your urine is dark yellow, you need not have jaundice. You're not drinking enough water. The moment you start drinking enough water, it will become light color. Okay. Okay. What about physical activity? So far, we talked about diet. Something about physical activity also you have to talk about. Now, exercise, we know very well, reduces the blood sugar, cholesterol, increase your HDL, decrease blood pressure, weight, insulin resistance, decrease the stress, and so on. Now, this is not a made up thing. There are people who take their dog for a walk like this. If you just walked with the dog, you would have also got the benefit, not the dog. Okay. This is not a made up picture on this side. People actually, believe me, you will see this happening. To go to a fitness center, there are nice stairs here, wide stairs are there. Not one fellow takes it. He says, when I paid for the fitness center, let me use the escalator. Okay. Why are you going to the fitness center? To get exercise. Even if you don't enter that through that door, but you just keep going up and down this 10 times, that is enough. You can come back. You don't have to enter through the door at all. But that people don't understand. The American Dietitian meeting, I'm supposed to be in there, but I could not go. It started today. They'll hear all the lectures about physical activity. Then there'll be nice staircase, and then there'll be escalator. Everyone will be using the escalator. Okay. Nobody will use this. It's a human habit that when you see something, I try my best. Not in my hospital, 5 floors are there. I've virtually never used the lift. I always walk up, even now. Okay. And I train my juniors also to do that. They'll be panting and so on. I'll say, no, get used to it. Come, let's do that. So I think this is a very good way of getting exercise. Okay. Otherwise, it lead to weight gain, obesity, and so on. Your 10,000 steps a day is not something which is made up. Of course, when the Japanese first proposed it, it was just a concept, but it's a beautiful concept. For those of you who use your go for a morning walk, after your 45 minutes or 1 hour of walking, you would have got only 5,000 steps, 6,000 steps. You still have to be active throughout the day. So it's a beautiful concept. Now people will say, oh, I can do only 7,000. Well, good. 7,000 is also good for an older person. One of the tips that I say is all of you use mobile phone. Okay. When you get a phone call, why do you have to sit and talk? Why can't you just start walking about in a room? You will get 500 steps, 1,000 steps. Okay. 10 phone calls and you've made it. You got your steps. It's so easy to get it. People don't realize it. Of course, don't walk down the stairs or up the stairs with this and don't fall off on the escalator and all that. But if you're getting in your office or somewhere, just on your room, bedroom, walk about and you'll get your steps. Of course, taking the dog for a walk. In office also, don't keep on sitting. Sedentarism, sitting is a new smoking, as I say. So get up every hour and walk about. If I don't get up, my Apple Watch will tell me, time to get up. It'll tell me. FAR principle is something which I created this acronym, FAR. It's easy to remember, because exercise we always think is only going for a walk or jog. Flexibility is very important. So what this person and this person is doing is flexibility, especially in older people. After 40, 50, you have to do this. Aerobic exercise, everybody knows, cycling, walking, swimming, jogging, whatever. Resistance training, you don't have to do big weightlifting like this guy. Like this, if you do little bit of weights, even if you just have a bottle, that is enough. This is enough to get your exercise. You don't need fancy equipment or anything like that. So remember, flexibility every day, Aerobic exercise every day, say every day, at least 6 days a week. Resistance training 2 to 3 days a week. That should be sufficient to build your muscle. Okay. Aerobic exercise, I told you, all these walking, jogging, swimming, cycling, dancing. Dancing, fantastic exercise. In fact, my daughter, one of her thing is Tandav. She's created a high intent HIIT through using exercise for using dance for adolescents, girls who cannot go to gym, can't do all that. They can do Tandav, and Tandav has become very popular now. Resistance training 2 to 3 times a week with repeated repetitions. Sleep is very important. Something which anybody, I'm not showing you the data, but from Pure, we have 2-3 studies showing that 6 to 8 hours of sleep, if you get, your mortality is very low. If you sleep more than 8 hours as an adult, 9, 10, 11, something wrong with you. You've got some health problem. If you sleep less than 6 hours and say, I need only 4 hours, I'm extremely fit, don't fool yourself. Sleep fatigue, where sleep deprivation will come, ultimately it'll kill you, because sleep is very necessary for human beings. 6 to 8 hours of sleep. It can be 6, can be 7, can be 8. We found that the mortality lowest below 6, it goes up, above 8 also it goes up. Similarly, we also saw in a separate paper published in Sleep Medicine, we looked at the timing of going to sleep. Those who went to sleep between 10 to 12 at night, they had the lowest mortality. If you went to sleep at 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and so on, mortality is very high. Something is wrong with you. That's why you're sleeping off at 6, 7. Okay. And if you sleep at 1, 2, 3, watching Netflix and all these things, that is also not good. Mortality very high in those who sleep very late. Stress reduction. Plays a very important role, and doing everything in moderation, that itself will decrease your stress. If you try to take on more and more and more, ultimately you will be no more. So you have to be, you have to have some moderation in thing. And meditation, very good, excellent. You can do it. Then yoga and pranayama, particularly, I believe that this is the best part of yoga, pranayama. I do it 365 days. I can't do without this. I'll be a different person. I'll throw things. I'll get so upset. I realized this about 20, 25 years ago, why I was so hyper. The moment I started doing pranayama, I'm normal. Even now I'm not. See what I did in the morning, even now the effect is there. So please do pranayama. All of you, please do pranayama. Everybody you meet, ask them to do pranayama. It is the greatest secret that India has. Of course, stretching, this, that, all asanas are also good, no doubt about it. But don't leave out pranayama. Okay. Yoga helps improve memory, concentration. We got papers on all of these showing cognitive improvement, diabetes improvement, all these. Tips for long and healthy life. So the first thing is avoid unhealthy foods, and especially carbohydrates, the bad carbs in your diet. That's the main thing for Indians. Increase plant protein foods like pulses, legumes, non-starchy vegetables, low glycemic index fruits and nuts. Consume less salt and sugar. Drink enough water and stay hydrated. Exercise regularly and try to be physically active. This is the most important thing. We want to be live a long and healthy life. Yoga is very good. Pranayama is fantastic. Get enough sleep and sleep on time. These 8, I think, are the real secrets to a long and healthy life. And you cannot have any session on healthy living or lifestyle modification without these. I think these are the fundamentals. This cannot change. It's been there time immemorial and nothing has changed now. Okay. So take home messages, healthier diets with lower carbs, along with increased protein and fiber, along with increased physical activity, can help to control type 2 diabetes in India.